Don't be a lemon. Be a rosebud.
Behold the power of magnetism. What would your finishing maneuver be called?
The circumcision.
Follow the process.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the wrestling podcast where we review every segment of Raw and give you the wrestling news of the week all over WWE and TNA. My name is Turbo Tony, and if you're not down with that, I've got 2 words for you. Matt Marsander.
I knew exactly where you were going. I was just like, oh, here we go.
There you go.
There it is.
You're expecting it now. You see, the sucker punch isn't there anymore.
I've known you too long.
How are you doing this week, Matt?
Very good. And yourself?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. We have new subscribers from our last episode, from the New Lick of Paint. I hope you guys did enjoy the new intro and everything like that. And it does seem a bit weird, I have to admit, looking back on those videos and seeing the pictures changed and everything along those lines. But
yeah,
sure.
Well, the thing is, the way on the last picture, it looked really bizarre because it almost looked like Daniel Bryan and Matt Marsander. I was like, I can go with that.
It was just an impromptu interview you had no clue that you were going to have.
That's it.
Or any recollection of which you've done it, you know, so yeah.
That's it.
No. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy all that new stuff. Just a little bit of thing to freshen up the podcast after the 25th episode, 25 weeks. We're past that now. We keep rolling on, and thank you guys for subscribing and obviously joining in on this train ride, as I like to call it. We haven't had a train wreck yet, so let's keep going until we see if we come across the rails. But
There's one thing I noticed, though, looking back on it all, we've already sort of doubled the previous on the previous channel.
Yes, oh yeah, we far
So
surpassed.
shockingly,
Yeah.
I think we were on like 12 or something like that, and we were rooting for Ryback. So
yeah, I mean a lot of our fans here probably subscribe to us. I didn't even know that we did ones before. So if you want to go back and see how newbie we were at doing podcasting, you can go back. There's a link on the actual channel page, and it goes back to our first couple of episodes. Have a look because I like to think that we've improved a lot since then. So this whole podcasting pizzazz. But regardless, thank you guys for subscribing, and we are growing. It's really cool to see that happening and seeing guys come in and give us thumbs up and give us good messages. We really appreciate it. Obviously, we like to hear feedback from you guys, and that's awesome. But enough procrastinating, Matt. There's wrestling news and Raw this week we need to get into. We also got a Superstar Spotlight for later on. It is to commemorate the 15th year anniversary of the passing of Owen Hart. So he is our Superstar Spotlight this week. So yes, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. We figured a safer bet than what would have been the birthday of Benoit. So
what you mean Stevie Richards, of course. I think that's probably...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, of course. We'll always remember Stevie Richards winning the belt at WrestleMania 20. Monumental. Anyway, let's move on forward before we tiptoe into muddy waters, shall we say, with Chris Benoit. First off, on our wrestling news, we have we talked about last week about the major financial hit that WWE took last week in the region of $340 million lost by Vince McMahon last week. And we did say back then they would be having a business call. They did indeed have a business call, but there's not really much to report here. They didn't really mention the finance drop. They didn't mention the stock dropping. We've heard stories originating from here that Vince was almost assured that he was going to double their TV money, which obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, he was pretty confident in just like the whole minor setback.
And we said last week as well that he held his cards close to his chest, and unfortunately he got bluffed. And people called his bluff, and obviously he didn't have much to say about that at the end, which is obviously why he's lost so much money. But in this conference call, they admitted that they do need more than 1 million network subscribers to actually draw even. They admitted this. I don't know whether it's obviously on this call. It was during the week, regardless of where it was on this call or not. But it was from their mouth that they need more than 1 million network subscribers to draw even. I think what WWE are doing here is that they're guilty of blowing their trumpet a little bit too much and giving their investors maybe false information, which has led obviously to a massive financial hit.
Yeah, they're sort of just hoping. It's like, come on, we could do this, so why not just say, yeah, guaranteed?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seems like common wrestler promoter talk. Yeah, we're guaranteed to get this. So the problem is when you do this in the stock market, you do get a backlash. And obviously, Vince McMahon has obviously learnt a $340 million lesson in that. But yeah, so that's interesting here. We have always said on this podcast that we believe that once they go international with the network, they will hit 1 million subs.
Oh, easily, yeah.
But now they've announced that they need to get in the region of 1.3 to 1.4. I'm not so sure that it'll reach those landmarks. I think they'll get past 1 million, but maybe I'm not so sure about their other landmarks that they have there on out. So we'll see how this goes. But as they are very reluctant to release numbers of the network. They did not release any numbers of how many people have subscribed to the network on this call. They're only going to do it quarterly, even though they're asked to. So they didn't even tell us what the rise is. Maybe they've hit a plateau. Maybe it's gone through the roof. We don't know. But obviously, it makes me firm to believe.
Actively trying to keep this all hush hush for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if the subscribers have gone through the roof, WWE would have lauded that as a fact. It would be all over their Did you know pages. But it makes me think if they're trying to keep these numbers close to chest, it means maybe it isn't hitting the mark that they thought they would. And the idea is as well, especially with this hit, that they may increase the price of the network after the first 6 months, which I still think is still a steal. Even if they increase up to $15 or whatever the regional equivalent will be when they go international, I still think that's a steal personally. So
easily,
yeah, I think they probably will make a little bit of a bump, and I don't think wrestling fans will bother that much, to be honest. It's still pittance really for the amount of content.
It's still the cost of a pay-per-view.
Yes, exactly. You're still saving you money, over here. Ludicrous, especially in Ireland, it's a ludicrous amount of money to get a pay-per-view. So, a little bit of thought on that. This is obviously the whole financial situation is probably going to simmer down a little bit now. They're not going to have any more conference calls. They're just going to get on with what they do, and obviously, hopefully, the market stops fluctuating and they can, start rebuilding on that lost stock. But we'll see how it goes from there. Moving on, Sting. We've talked about him a lot. Well, not so much over the past couple of weeks. We were led to believe that he is pretty much his name is on a WWE contract somewhere. Now, news has come out this week that is not the case. He's not aligned with the company. He's not signed with them at all. Apparently,
his name's probably on a contract somewhere. Doesn't mean there's a signature to match it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you hit the nail on that. On the nail there, Matt. That's WWE obviously want the guy, but maybe they're not in any rush to get him. I don't think Sting would rush into any sort of contract with WWE. He said on record beforehand that he's a little bit cautious is probably the best word of signing with WWE. So yeah, I mean, with that in mind, obviously Sting's going to be reluctant to sign with the company. But we were under the assumption, maybe prematurely, I'd admit that Sting was already with them, already working with them. He's been on the network. He's been on. I
think it was the Warrior tribute videos.
Yeah, which I watched, by the way, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, and as a result, sort of people are just like, oh well, this is a WWE thing, and Sting's on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh. No, not the case. He's just doing it as a tribute.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, one thing that I feel like that we messed up a little bit on this podcast. We said once before that we weren't going to break any news about Sting unless we knew exactly pen for paper that he's arrived on the scene. We broke that because we thought it was done, and obviously we got it wrong. A lot of people obviously got it wrong. From here on out, I'm not going to make any sort of reference to Sting in the news unless it's absolutely confirmed that it's on WWE.com or he shows up on a WWE show that he signed for the company. There is no other way of doing it.
Until he walks out on Raw, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting. This comes up every year, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, this year more than any other, seems like the most likely that he's going to be with the company, but just can't really put my finger on it. It seems like the longer it goes on without Sting not actually having anything to do with it. Maybe he'll wait until Mania season next year, but that's a long time, for him to not be doing much. So we'll see how it goes there anyway. It seems like the time has passed in that proverbial dream match against him and Undertaker, regardless. So.
Yeah. I think sort of 5-10 years ago that would have been a dream match, but I think we've got to wake up and sort of come to realization that it's probably not ideal anymore.
Yeah, so yeah, in that case, Matt Marsander has some bad news for us Dream Match fans. We're not going to be getting that one anytime soon. That's what our assumption is.
Go with that. Yeah.
Well, sorry, it doesn't even realistic. Anytime soon, we're not going to get it ever. That's probably the best word to put it.
Yeah.
If it was going to happen, it would have happened by now, and it hasn't. So there you go. Moving on into a little bit of somber news here. We've known of the great work that DDP has done with the likes of Jake the Snake Roberts and Scott Hall. He got both of them back into, well, not back into, obviously, into the Hall of Fame. He brought them back back into healthy living, gave them, obviously the DDP yoga scheme. Really took these guys under his wing and helped them, defeat their demons and come out stronger for it.
Yeah, it's definitely a sort of when no one else would sort of case.
Yeah, and he's gained great respect for this. It seems, however, Scott Hall has been going through a little bit of a tough time recently. He actually he cancelled on a booking that him and his son were due for. And when asked the reason why he did it, he said that he was in a dark place. A few other people around him obviously said that he's had a slip up and stuff like this. Now, while this is a little bit of a concern, obviously, one thing I would be worried about with these guys, Scott Hall and Jake Roberts. Scott Hall more so than Jake Roberts. I think Jake Roberts probably is in a better place than Hall, but who am I to judge? But after them getting into the Hall of Fame, it seems like there may not be any sort of goal for these guys to stay clean going forward, here on out. They're in the
They're
Hall
in
of
now.
Fame. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like WWE are going to just sort of come along and just go, nope.
Yeah.
Just sort of take the Hall of Fame from them.
Yeah, I mean the problem with a lot of wrestlers is that they get the limelight put back on them, and it reminds them of all the reasons why they got into drugs, alcohol. They get into the party lifestyle, and it brings them back into that lifestyle that got them into those vices in the first place. Sometimes they can relapse. Obviously, we don't know all the details. We haven't heard that he's gone out on a bender, Scott Hall, or anything like this. But it is a little bit worrying, obviously, from guys that have monitored and been invested emotionally with the progress that him and Jake.
Well, the thing is, it's a difficult one because you don't know whether it's like he's in a dark place, sort of emotionally, or it's like if he's slipped up on a sort of clean living thing, it might not necessarily be the fact, he's back on hard drugs or anything like that. Sort of DDP sort of forces upon you, but it's a clean living lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it could even just to the fact that he had a bit and he just feels really bad about it.
Yeah. It may, like as you say, mate, it could be the other side of the coin. He may have, maybe had a beer and maybe thought, or something along those lines, and thought, wait a minute, I don't want to go back into a date and get back into this if I'm not 100%, because I might be tempting myself. So he had to cancel, and then obviously, these guys are still in recovery. You can't do all the things that they've done to their bodies, with drugs and alcohol over that period of time and give it up so easily over a couple of months. People have to remember that. It takes years to build up that trust in yourself and the to be able to to be able to battle the urges that your body has at that point from taking all these different stimulants and stuff along those lines. So I mean, it takes a long time. These vices don't get wiped away in a couple of weeks. It takes a long time, and sometimes you do slip up. I remember Jake did the same, but he obviously came out a lot quicker about it, and it was only like maybe a beer that he had or something along those lines. So hopefully it's just that. We'll keep it obviously monitored. It would be a real shame if either of these guys, especially as people have poured money into getting these guys operations and everything like this, So
that's it.
Imagine if they did that.
It was Scott Hall that sort of everyone sort of threw together for a charity.
Yeah, exactly. To get him an operation that his body needed, which is fair enough if fans want to do that. But what a way to spit on your fans if they've seen you recover and they want to invest money in your,
Cheers,
in your
guys.
health. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ruin it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be a real fuck you, and I hope that fear doesn't drive them to do it, because sometimes that can do it as well. That fear of letting down people drives them to do it regardless. So I hope that isn't the case. Moving onward, we had Kazarian, who the last couple of weeks on TNA is just basically being mowed over by the Menagerie. He has left TNA. His contract expired and obviously just left with the company. He said he had an interview, quite an interesting one. I'll point out some of the stuff here that I found quite interesting. He said in the interview that when he left TNA, it wasn't like he was leaving TNA. He wasn't sad because it didn't seem like it was TNA anymore. He pointed to a lot of the staples of the company, the likes of Jeff Jarrett, AJ Styles, all leaving, and the people coming in replacing them, obviously new talent or people that haven't been with the company for too long. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was quite an interesting thing to him to say there, and he was saying along the lines of that, he was part of the tag team Bad Influence with Christopher Daniels, who obviously left the company recently also. So when the Wolves were brought in, which are the current TNA tag team champions, they wanted to work with them, but it just never seemed to come to fruition. And Kazarian and Daniels were basically put on the back burner and given just random matches here and there to kind of put them over, which seems like a shame because they were a very, very good tag team, Kazarian and Daniels.
Just Daniels alone don't even necessarily need Kazarian.
They're a pair of I mean, like I said, as you said there, Matt, they're both very talented, but I think Daniels is in a sort of different league, personally.
Yeah.
Now, there just seems to be a slight exodus of TNA homegrown stars, like we said beforehand. Styles, Jeff Jarrett leaving, even to a certain extent, I know he hasn't left the company, but Angle got recently injured for another 6 months. So a lot of these main staples of that show aren't around anymore. So now you've got the likes of MVP, you've got Bobby Lashley around, you've got Willow with all of his...
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed Lashley was around. I was sort of like, that's what he's been doing with himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
good for him.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty decent match the last couple of weeks. He's got a good match in him. I just don't think he can keep that up consistently. But regardless, it seems like they're going through like a transitional period, or maybe they don't know where they're going and they're just getting guys randomly. But it doesn't help TNA having some of these staples of their company not being around. Let's just say that. With AJ Styles leaving, I think that was very damaging to the company. I also think that not having Angle around is damaging to them, because I think a lot of people go to see Angle because he was a big star, in WWE. Some people still say, to this day, that if you ask where Angle came from to a general wrestling fan, they don't know what he's been doing for the last number of years. They still think he was a WWE wrestler that went nowhere. They don't know that he's been in TNA for years.
Yeah.
So, and RVD said the same, that he was in TNA for a number of years, and then when he got back to WWE, people asked him where he had been, not knowing that he was in TNA. So, with that in mind, TNA, we went through a topic a couple of weeks back talking about TNA in great length. And I'm not going to talk too much about that episode this week because we covered some of it last week, except for the fact that my one praise last week was for the Menagerie, and this week I thought they were a bit meh. Personally, a bit of a clusterfuck, but that's the only thing I will say about TNA this week. But there are problems there, and it seems like sometimes, some weeks they go forward, some weeks they go way backwards, and it's just they don't seem to be progressing consistently. I think that's probably the best way to put it. They're competing with NXT. I think that's the biggest condemnation of them. They're not really competing with WWE.
Yeah, well, I don't think they can compete with WWE anymore. Like, that dream for them at the moment is shot.
Oh, I fully agree. I think that if they had any chance of competing with WWE, they needed to keep progressing the way they were before Hogan and Bischoff got there.
Yeah.
They were edgy, alternative. They were giving the fans what WWE couldn't. Real good, high class wrestling, high flying wrestling, good divas action. Knockouts action. In a 6-sided ring, no less. This was completely different. You'd go there to watch
Such
things.
a bizarre concept.
Exactly. Yeah.
6-sided ring.
But things have changed since then, and possibly not for the better. But I think that's a topic for another time. Maybe asking ourselves if they should have, where TNA might have been if Hogan and Bischoff had never gone there, and the likes of Dixie
Bought out by WWE.
You think so? Even regardless, yeah.
Oh no! If they stuck it out the way, because I know of a lot of people who jumped ship to TNA back when it was a 6-sided ring, back when you had, like the lockdown events and all things like that. And I know people they've come back to the WWE because TNA slipped.
Yeah.
So I reckon it could have gone into like a WCW sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem is because WWE have such a monopoly now. If TNA would have got so big, I think WWE would have given them. If they've gotten big enough to be a threat, I think WWE would have just bought them out.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you with that fact, but it's interesting to think of nonetheless. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Maybe we'll have a long, in-depth conversation. We'll do our research
be doing
on it.
a Let's Talk Wrestling TNA show. If it was
Yeah, let's talk more wrestling TNA edition, and we'll just talk solely about TNA a little bit. For our more TNA inspired fans, I know there's some of the guys listening to this think that we are harsh on TNA. I actually think they've got a lot of bright lights that could really do well for that company. And if you want to go back and listen to other episodes, you're more than happy to do so, because there is a few people that are labelled that are good and I really do enjoy. But sometimes they do some things semi-right and they do some things blaringly wrong. And that's my issue with it.
blaringly wrong.
Blaringly, yeah. Yeah. I think that's more of an English word, I think, that we say over here. So apologies to our American viewers. So get on to our Raw review. So this is the bulk of our podcast. This week, Raw emanated from our side of the pond, in our home country, in London, over in England.
In our capital.
We obviously have different. We obviously, the fans in England are by majority very, very good. You can tell that from the Raws after WrestleMania. I know everyone gives props to the New Jersey crowd after the WrestleMania 29 event. The majority of them were English, so if you have to praise them,
it's very heavy international crowd.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that people generally tend to forget. It's like, oh, they were amazing. It's like you're talking about a crowd that's just like, I've travelled over for Mania, and you know what? I may as well make the most of it and stick around for Raw as well.
Actually, you're exactly right. And the thing is, as well, the thing that I say about Raw is the reason why you have more international fans there is because, WrestleMania houses sometimes in excess of 60,000 people. For a show, the Raw afterwards are only catch like 17,000 maybe, and they're all diehard fans, all of them, and they're all the guys that would have flown over to catch that as well. And the majority of them would be English fans, and you see a lot of English flags and everything on this. So you would expect, as from maybe we are biased because we're English, of course, but a raucous English crowd.
Yeah.
Now I have one thing to say negatively towards the English crowd, unfortunately, this week, and obviously I'll go into that.
Please don't mention it's the fact that it makes it out like the English are rosebuds.
No, it's not at all.
But if any crowd was going to get behind and start going along with the rosebud, it probably would be us.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that as it comes up anyway. We like to do this in chronological order.
As it happens.
As it happens, exactly. We were treated to, right at the start of the show, as the intro to the show is going in, the Wyatts hijacked it, which I loved. I love it when shows do this sometimes. Not just in Raw, sometimes when
the thing I find funny is the fact that it's like you're very open with the fact it's like, I think matches should start a show, and it's like, this was a promo.
Yeah. Yeah,
I loved it.
You're exactly right, Matt. And anyone, I know sometimes I feel like I beat the same drum sometimes when it comes to certain things. But yes, I'm a huge fan of matches starting shows. However, when a promo is this good, I really can't say anything against that. It was phenomenal. We'll talk about it anyway. So, Wyatt's obviously talking, he's walking that tightrope that he likes to do between heel and face, just so eloquently. He is talking about, his teacher at school telling him that he was evil, no good, and then he just admits at the end, obviously, that he is evil, but, that's why he does what he does, but he's still standing up for all these people. This is my one thing I had negative about the English audience. They use the one chant I really despise, which is the what chant during the whole Bray Wyatt thing. They were trying their best, but you can't really do the what chant in a Bray Wyatt promo. It just doesn't really work.
You sit and you listen to Bray Wyatt talk.
Yeah. I mean, they were shouting what, and obviously Bray was continuing with his promo, and it just didn't work, That was made to kind of punish wrestlers who would do the usual, and I'm going to win the title, what? At the pay-per-view, what? But obviously Bray Wyatt doesn't do that. He's much, much better. He flows, he continues to talk.
He's too eloquent to do that too.
Yeah, far.
It's all just and the story continues. What? No. There's no what.
Yeah, exactly. And he weaves them, the crowd like that. It's brilliant the way he does it.
Oh yeah, to be perfectly honest, it's sort of like it's it's rather than like he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world eating out of his hands.
Yeah, that's that's amazing. Yeah, I fully agree with you. He's a magician, shall we say, in terms of doing his promos, especially when he's in the ring. I find some of his promos, maybe when he's backstage now, that's a little bit overdone. But whenever he's in the ring and he's doing those promos, and you give him time, man, he's as good as anyone in the business.
Oh yeah.
So I can't really explain what he says in this promo. It wouldn't do it justice, but I will go ahead and say this is one of the best promos I've seen Wyatt do. And for the quality of which he does it each week, this should be more than enough for you to go and seek out this promo. It was that fantastic.
Oh yeah.
It was great, and
that's it sold.
Yeah.
Me.
I said it to you that last week on the podcast that the build up to a lot of these matches leading up to Payback, it just smells of rematches. It's just I'm not into it. A lot of these matches I've seen before, I'm not really bothered. This match was so good, I actually kind of wanted me to see Wyatt against Cena again, even though they've already gone against each other in 2 pay-per-views in a row. Wyatt versus Cena, yeah.
Oh, the main event.
No, their pay-per-view match, Payback. It kind of makes me interested to see Wyatt go against Cena again.
Oh, through the promo.
Yeah, through the promo. Yeah, I mean, beforehand I couldn't give a crap. That's how good this promo was. It actually got me thinking, oh wow, maybe this could be interesting to watch. Now, this is one thing. Sometimes WWE, I'll point back to when they one of the times recently they went to Chicago. The last time they went to Chicago, actually, I know they're going there again soon, but last time they went to Chicago, they knew the fans were planning to hijack that show, and they built the entire show around that fact. Yeah. And they were brilliant, WWE's booking of that actual Raw, because they played off the fans. They almost hijacked the fans' response. Sometimes WWE do it fantastically, like that as an instance. Sometimes they book their shows in such a manner that they don't know the crowd that they're doing it for, and they should have known. They should have known what the English crowd would have been like. So when you get the likes of, after this promo, Cena coming out and laying out Wyatt, they should have known he would have been booed to shit. I don't think that does anything.
Just being in England, he was going to get booed to shit.
But it doesn't do anything against Wyatt. He's still going to get cheered. It doesn't do anything for Cena. It just makes people think, oh, really? And you're not going to be using this stuff, I don't think, in promos or anything. You've got enough footage, so why would you need Cena to come out and give him a quick AA? It just makes no sense to me. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at the end...
it's the one thing I disliked about it. It's just how can they not see Cena? He's in a Dayglow t-shirt.
He's in bright green neon, almost,
Yeah, that's it. His t-shirt glows in the dark, I say.
He should be like a running green monster through the black dark, if he was coming out. So, yeah, I didn't like Cena laying out. I don't have that much of an issue. I just thought it was unnecessary, personally. Yeah. And I don't think it would have been an issue if they'd done it in America or anything along those lines, or a crowd that maybe isn't as rambunctious, or maybe Cena, happy. But this isn't the reason I bring this up is because there was another issue later on in the night where it seemed that their booking was off, and it led to a oh really sort of feeling among the crowd, and to myself watching it as well. So moving on, first match of the night, Sheamus against Cesaro, which just seems like a cracker of a match, a good old brawl between these guys. They've met each other in in battle royales and stuff like this, and they've had good exchanges. So excited to see these 2 guys wrestle each other. Paul Heyman comes out and cuts a cracker of a promo here. A really good one.
Oh, just gold.
Yeah.
This is the fact. There's just it's almost like he's just mocking the English crowd. It's like, oh, who am I? No, I'm not your queen. It's like, oh, you're a dick.
And he tailored his promo to adapt to the fans. That's what you do. That's what Paul Heyman sometimes does brilliantly, better than the majority of people.
Well, you mentioned it earlier when those sort of WWE tried the hijack of Chicago.
Yeah.
The Heyman promo there was just going on about CM Punk, not by name, but then it's just and then just completely just dicks all over the crowd.
Yeah, it's like the entire promo. He's just jerking off, and the actual final pickup line, he just lets it out on all of them, and they don't even realise that he's been doing it all that time. Probably a little bit of a bad of analogy, but regardless.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman's sperm only on the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. So yeah, brilliant promo from him. He obviously he lay down on the floor. He said, "What am I? No, I'm not your queen dying," or along these lines, or the Undertaker losing the streak. Brilliant stuff by him. The one thing I will say is that obviously he did verbally attack the Queen and the Undertaker, so I'm thinking maybe the Queen will be in the Undertaker's side in the inevitable rematch against him and Brock Lesnar.
Queenie will be in the corner.
Queen will be in the corner, crown in hand, ready to stop Paul Heyman from interfering. I can see it happening.
Officially decree the SmackDown being layeth.
Yes, exactly. And she could bring out the entire Raw family. They just. They could start a whole new Royal Rumble and it'll be legitimate. There you go.
Yeah, an actual Royal Rumble.
Of course, no, we're just joking with you. I know we're going to do one of those jokes eventually and someone's going to be really sort of like, oh, these guys know nothing. They really think this is going to happen. Yeah. We're almost a little bit too good at sarcasm. I have to put a little footnote at the end that we don't actually think that's going to happen. Or we know that's actually...
I don't know. I reckon Harry can hold himself.
Get in there. Get in the ring, Harry. Why not? So yeah, one thing, as you know, Sheamus was going to get booed heavily, and he did. Everything that he did, he got booed for.
It's a difficult one, because it's just sort of like, he got booed heavy, but it's sort of like, he's close enough to being a... I know the whole English versus the Irish thing, but it's like, it's close enough that you may as well just refer to him as a Brit.
Yeah.
I mean, in the eyes of the WWE, they probably did see it that way, but it's Cesaro. Everyone gets booed to Cesaro.
This crowd just likes to dick all over Sheamus's matches, though. If you remember, they chanted for all the commentators during his match against Orton on that Raw after WrestleMania, and they chanted for all the commentators here. I don't think they have much respect for Sheamus personally. But this match was good. It was alright. It was a long match. It was decent. It was a good one to open up the show. Because it was quite interesting to see these two guys batter each other, because they're quite stiff.
It wasn't even just that. It was genuinely, physical.
Yeah. Which is what these two guys can give to you in a wrestling match. And when you've got them two going against each other, it's just... I wouldn't mind seeing these guys in a real long... I would love to see Sheamus and Cesaro in an Iron Man match. I don't know about you, but... I think that's tasty to me, the idea of that. But... Heyman gets the distraction anyway, and Cesaro wins with a dirty German suplex with the pin. It's been a while since we've seen a German suplex getting a win. Sheamus, goes for a handshake. Cesaro pulls away with the same trick. With the same trick that seems like all preteen boys do to everyone. Oh, shake my hand, Nina, sort of thing. I just expected maybe Cesaro to put his thumb on his nose and just as you know, yeah. Seems a little bit childish, but who am I to kid? It's PG wrestling.
That's it.
Maybe they'll have more matches against you. It certainly seems like Cesaro is not really feuding with anyone, so maybe they are building to a Cesaro and Sheamus feud. And I think that's fine. I have no problem with that at all.
Not a bad thing to have.
Yeah. So the skeleton of this match, shall we say, the backbone of it, was this beat the clock challenge for the number one contender of the IC title. First of which was, if you haven't obviously seen these before, they bust these out every now and then, this gimmick of beat the clock. And obviously, it's like one of their tournaments, it gives them a nice little staple in the middle of their show to build around.
We had the 3 weeks of tournaments funny enough, for the IC title, and now we've got a beat the clock challenge for the IC title.
Yeah.
So, not just come up with a story. No, we're just challenge.
Yeah. It seems like they want to, they've been promoting the IC title as a more, like you said, as more of a wrestling belt, whereas the WWE title is the storyline belt, which I know you like to pin on it quite a bit. That there's never a straight up wrestling match to do with the WWE title. It's always a storyline that involves.
No, that's it.
So anyway, Ryback had a video package before this promo, in which he said that he was bigger than Big Ben. I don't know if he's hit his head maybe one too many times, or maybe he just hasn't seen the landmark, but I don't see how that's possible.
Or maybe he's being sort of like an ignorant tourist, because Big Ben's not actually the clock piece.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
Fact.
Exactly. But yeah. So Ryback running.
But yeah, I didn't. It's like, I'm the big guy, and it's just like tick, Tuck, yes, right back. We know how clocks work.
Yeah, come on. Normally he's pretty good, but in these like pre-tape segments, it just seems like he's being told what to say, and obviously it just doesn't come off that well. Ryback at his best is when he's got a mic at commentary and he doesn't have much restriction over what he can say, and he just says whatever comes up to mind. And funny enough, that's when he's best on the mic. But these segments,
That's also when he gets in trouble.
yeah, but I don't know. I'm just saying it from our point of view. We're just the consumers, aren't we? So
That's it.
Big E gets the win. Not particularly a great match. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. That's the thing. It was average.
It was an expected match.
Yeah.
Because like you knew full well that this would be the match to start the sort of like the first time.
Yeah, and it had to be
and it would have to be long because you can't have someone like Big E and Ryback and then have a quick finish.
Yeah.
When you've essentially got two guys of a very similar build.
Yeah, and obviously they've got to give enough time to the other guys to do their matches as well. So
Yeah.
the match clocked in at 5 minutes 2 seconds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean these matches aren't meant to be that long anyway. So,
The WWE,
yeah,
masters of the 3-minute match.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So moving on from there, we had R-Truth against Fandango.
No, we didn't.
Well, no, we didn't. Yeah, but
It never kicked off. That was the one that goes just like. But the thing I loved the most is the fact full well the reason why the Funkadactyls were out there, not because it was a mixed tag match, but simply because the UK crowd weren't going to give him anything.
Yeah, and they really didn't give him anything at all, really, did they? I mean, he tried his best.
I need the Funkadactyls to do what's up bit.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to do it.
Because it was just dead for his entire entrance. But as you know, with England over here, we seem to have a little bit of a penchant for Fandango's entrance. And as he comes out, roared out with the English crowd doing the Fandangoing. Obviously, the whole, the English contingent is what got Fandangoing over in the first place. So, whenever he comes over here, he gets a warm reception. Him with Layla, they had a passionate kiss with each other before his supposed match, and then
Still hate Fandango.
Yeah. For you see that rage is going to build up every single time he does that.
I know.
So Summer Rae comes out, so she's been absent for a while, filming the Marine 4 with the Miz.
Yes.
So she came out and broke up the kiss, and her punishment to her former boyfriend Fandango was to basically shove her tongue down his throat. So if that's the sort of punishment that she's willing to give, then I may have to break her heart one day. Do you know? Maybe.
Possibly.
Possibly. No, I'm a married man. Can't do that anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, just seemed a bit odd. That this incensed Layla. She didn't know what to make of this, and apparently, according to this huge thing between these, Summer Rae coming down and spoiling Fandango's entrance, that was enough to finish the match. I mean, we didn't actually have a match, so yeah.
I don't know. I think we had close enough to a match. We had divas rolling around on the floor scrapping. Recently that would have equated to a divas match.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we did have a match. We just didn't know it.
That's it.
We're just so used to seeing some semblance of quality in a Divas match. So, yeah, I mean, come on, this is one thing I thought was poor booking. I mean, how are you supposed to? The fans obviously going to be thinking to ourselves, wasn't there supposed to? What was the point in R-Truth coming out if they're just going to do this and Fandango just walks out?
Because... Yeah, just have like Fandango come out first.
It is a little bit ridiculous. It's a little bit. It kind of makes you think, oh, really? Did they really do that? But
just so we can just laugh at R-Truth and his lack of reception.
Exactly, yeah. It seems like this is one of the things that every now and then that you see TNA doing, and they get roasted for it, but WWE do it and they don't get it as bad. But man, this was horrendous. this whole bit.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. So Brian's music hits after this match.
Yeah, and then we get trolled.
So Steph comes out. Stephanie McMahon comes out for pretty much the easiest heel heat she will ever get in her career.
Yep.
The old fake entrance music trick. I remember actually back when they used that. The best person to ever use that was Shawn Michaels. He was heel at the time, and he was cutting a promo against Bret Hart. And then obviously Bret Hart hadn't been in the company for ages at that point. Brett's music hits and Sean looks like he's seeing a ghost. He's pacing about the ring. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen, and he's waiting for the Hitman to come down. And then suddenly he breaks out into hysterics, and it's actually Michaels that had done it all along, and he's having fun at the fans' expense. I thought that was a brilliant segment. This is just as good. I thought it got all the reaction it needed to.
That's it. Like Stephanie McMahon, you a bitch.
Yeah. I praised Bray Wyatt for being a magician earlier on with his promos. Steph is exactly the same in this promo. She was absolutely fantastic. She was weaving in and out of the reactions of the crowd, using her statements to get each response and then flipping it on its head time and time again. She was very, very good in this promo.
She kind of like sampled Wade Barrett in the sort of situation that we were discussing. We've discussed before, like, you know, maybe he can be like the bad news bringer of the Authority. So they kind of just stuck him in a video package. But then the only problem then was we had Stephanie try to do a northern accent.
Yeah. Which was...
I never want to hear that again.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're going to be out of UK because, yeah, not up to scratch with some of Matt's impressions, so we say.
Yeah.
Of certain wrestlers. So yeah, but she was brilliant here. And when she's like this, and in this mode, I mean, some people may say, oh, she's still kind of being fake-faced. Well, in this one, I don't think so as much. You know, she's just, you know, she can, you know, she's basically, you know, not bearing Daniel Bryan, but being very negative towards him, not being like, oh, I didn't want you to get hurt, and all these along these lines. When she's being a proper heel, she's brilliant at it, and when she, you know, it's very entertaining to watch her be that character. So the actual meat and bones of this promo was her saying that she wasn't going to strip Bryan of the championship as much as she was name-dropping certain people that she might give the title to.
Wade Barrett. Woo!
Yeah, Wade Barrett. Which have got a raucous reception, of course. Instead, she said that he needs to do the right thing and release it to her next week. Which, personally, I don't like the idea of the storyline. I'm not going to review it or condemn it before it's done, so I'm going to hold out my thoughts on it. But
that's it. We'll wait until next week.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this idea. The only way that really it would make sense after all this, you know, problems with Steph trying to get the belt off him is just her to take it off him. She's got a valid excuse to do so. She can do it, and you know, by all laws, that's fine. But I don't know. It just seems a little bit odd. I'm like I said, I'm not gonna prejudge it before it happens, but we're gonna keep an eye on that next week with particular interest, shall we say?
Indeed. One
little note here: promos like these are the reason why Steph is the best in the field at what she does in that role. Dixie Carter in TNA does her best to try and be even half as good as Steph can be in this role, and she can't do it. It's my note here. It's like with Dixie Carter and Stephanie McMahon. It's like comparing the most delicious steak you've ever eaten in your life with a shit pie. It just doesn't match up.
Fair enough.
I know you haven't watched TNA. You haven't seen Dixie Carter recently, Matt.
I've tried.
You tried to your best of your ability. You compare this promo that Steph does here with any that Dixie Carter have done. It's there's just no comparing it. It's day and light, you know. It's light and dark. It's quality and shit. That's basically the only two things I can say about it. It's this is the reason why in this role as this evil, vindictive female authority figure, Dixie Carter will never get better than Steph and Matt. That's the way it'll go, unfortunately. For TNA, of course. For us, it's fine. Well, yes. One other note, about this. One thing that I note here is that Steph, when she comes out now, because she's much more prevalent on TV now, is that she's more like Vicky Guerrero in the way that she can get an instant reaction from a crowd. She's a lot less annoying while she does it. So, yeah. Would you agree with that fact?
Yeah, I can agree with that completely.
Yeah. Which is good because I miss the reactions that Vicky Guerrero would get just by coming out to the ring. But obviously, that goddamn catchphrase that she had, yeah. That I can do without. But yeah, the instant heel heat is something that I missed. So as long as Steffi's getting that, that's fine with me. Yeah. Our adoptive sons, the Union Jacks, to our fine country, they come out. They obviously this is 3MB, changing their gimmick whenever they come over to England. They become the Union Jacks for whatever reason. I'm not going to question why. It's just bizarro world.
Because why the hell not?
Why the hell not, sort of thing. Sometimes wrestling just has to be a little bit weird, and obviously we're biased because we're English, so they get a free pass, possibly, maybe not. Lana interferes and shows various clips
Well,
of.
the one thing I was really annoyed. I was like, oh, why? Like in England, why can't we just have Drew wrestle? And then Lana came out, and I was like, I'm glad it's Slater.
Yeah, we know who's going to get trampled on now. Yeah. So obviously Lana came out and she showed various clips of the Russian flag on like the White House and the Houses of Parliament. I tell you what, if Russia ever declare war on us, I guess we had fair warning.
That's it. Lana said so.
Yeah. Now, Rusev actually got on the mic this time, and he cut a foreign language promo, obviously in Bulgarian or Russian, whatever language it is. We have gone on record beforehand. I know you're exactly the same as me on this, Matt, and I can say with confidence that you agree with me on this. We do not like these sort of promos, and it's not because, we hate foreign people. It's like, well, how are we supposed to relate to what he's saying if we can't understand it?
Yeah, completely.
So I hope that they don't do this too much. I hope that the reason why you put Lana with him is because she can be that mouthpiece, obviously, I'm not saying this guy doesn't know English, but she could be that mouthpiece. He could still be this guy, this foreign guy that just comes and destroy everyone, but you have Lana do the talking for him. I just think if you continue to him having these even small little promos just in a foreign language, the fans aren't going to get behind it because they can't understand. How are they supposed to hate what he says if they don't know what he says?
Yeah, completely.
Now, the King makes a really retarded comment here, which I wanted to bring up. That a cabbie apparently told him specifically that Bulgarians are coming to England and taking over our country. I don't know what he was thinking there. Maybe he heard that foreigners are coming over and taking our country, which is something that you hear a lot of English people say, but I guess King heard what he wanted to hear. I've never heard the words in my entire life, living in England. I'm guessing you're the same. Bulgarians are coming over and taking over our country. I've never heard that.
Bulgarians.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought that was a bit weird. I just thought maybe King heard something and, I could use this on Raw, even though maybe that wasn't exactly what was said. It just seemed really stupid.
Is it completely out of context? Of course it's completely out of context. I'm King.
Yeah, this is what I do each week in, week out. Rusev, essentially what we like to say, eats Slater in a couple of seconds for dinner. Just no resistance offered by Slater. He may as well just rolled over and.
Well, they try and get the early attack, and Rusev was going to have none of it.
Yeah, exactly. And as we said, proceeds to eat him because that's pretty much the only way to say in the method of dominance. He had over Slater here, and the match is, like I said, over in a few seconds, and Rusev gets the growing heel heat on him. He's doing fine, Rusev, at the moment, so no issue with him at the moment.
Long may continue.
Yeah. Next match. First of all, we had a backstage promo with Shield. Roman Reigns showed us his rather hefty cut, which he had got from the house shows during the week. If you actually look at some of the pictures, man, he got a nasty gash.
It was earlier on in the night where they were mentioning things like, this is a picture of it, and it shows like the one he put on Twitter or whatever. And then it's like, and here's him getting stitched up, and it's like, just bear in mind this is really graphic. It's like the picture of him getting stitched was nowhere near as bad as like the actual wound itself.
Yeah, I do admit, but he had a pretty nasty cut here. Which is probably one of the main reasons why he wasn't. I mean, he still got physical during this show, but
main reason why he had a fat black eye.
Yeah, he did. It showed quite badly. So they cut a promo here. Rollins came out the best here. Obviously, it was his match with Batista later on in the night. He came off really passionate, impactful. While I still think that Reigns is definitely WWE's next big money man, Rollins
he's not going to be WWE's next big talker. That's the only problem.
Yeah, but in terms of like impressing me recently, Rollins has like made some serious inroads. I think that this guy is going to we said once before that we were worried about Rollins, him being left by the wayside. Ambrose will always do well on the mic, so he'll always be fine. Reigns has got the look, the move set. He's young. He's going to be WWE's next big star. But where does Rollins fit in? I think now the way he's wrestled since
Rollins has a spot.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. Like Rollins is safe.
Yeah. And I get this feeling now that when they break up, if he goes face, man, they could get a lot of stock behind this guy. A lot of people get behind Rollins and his moveset. It's quite electric. So yeah, and he obviously comes off as a pretty good talker himself. Maybe he doesn't get enough praise for his mic skills, but he ain't half bad, I have to admit. He's a lot better than I put him down for. So, next match anyway. Rob Van Dam against Alberto Del Rio is the next Beat the Clock challenge. Now, one of the things I noticed during this match, obviously as I was making my notes, is that the problems with the WWE title at the moment is that they've stopped having like these genuine competitive tournaments or events like these to crown a number one contender. People just get named number one contender out of nowhere. It doesn't really matter how they get there. The IC title, however, when you look at their tournament they had last month and looking at this Beat the Clock challenge that they have, they seem to have got a little bit of a better backbone than the WWE title has in terms of naming their opponents and making it so these guys have to have credible wins to actually get a chance at the belt, and when you look at that the way, obviously I don't want people to start thinking, Tony thinks that the IC title is coming off better than the WWE one. I'm not saying that at all, but when they do these tournaments to crown the number one contenders like this for the IC title, but not for the WWE title, it just seems a bit odd, personally.
Oh, that's it. But I've always mentioned it, and you've mentioned it earlier. It's like it's a story title.
Yeah, and they don't treat it like you need to win something to be number one contender.
That's it. Well, still, sort of Stephanie touched on it during our promo. It's like, oh, maybe I should just give it to Kane. It's like, why does Kane deserve it?
Yeah, he hasn't won a match in ages. All he's done is come and beat up Daniel Bryan, but he lost against Bryan. He lost at WrestleMania. They were the last two matches that he had. So on pay-per-view, anyway, I'm sure he's had.
I keep forgetting he was at Mania.
Yeah, he lost within 5 minutes to the Shield. So yeah, not exactly stellar record. So that's just a little note I had said there. In regards to this match, anyway, it was all right, I guess. Van Dam got the win. It looked a little bit awkward, I have to say, because it looked like RVD missed a few of his spots. I don't know whether it came off that way to you as well.
I didn't think it was a particularly great match as it is.
Yeah,
I can honestly say I didn't read too much into it.
I mean, they had to fit it in within that 5 minute time limit. So obviously, sometimes when they do this gimmick, it does limit the amount of guys the amount of things.
Well, the thing I noticed it a lot more during the Ziggler match later on.
Yeah,
but it's the one thing I don't like with the stop the clock matches is you've got people who will do full on, like they will go and they will give you a good 15-20 minute match.
Yeah.
And then when you're getting into those final bits, will look like they've just gone through hell. But when you do a beat the clock challenge, you're selling like you've just done a marathon.
In
a minute into the match.
Yeah.
Like, I've just taken 3 average bumps and I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And it's like, well, no, I don't buy that.
When you've seen the likes of Ziggler have matches against like Cena and ladder matches and stuff like this and win them, and
that's it. Or I mean, even to sort of to think it's probably goes down as like my favorite Ziggler match, but it's Ziggler versus Edge. Like that was an amazing match,
and a very lengthy one, wasn't it?
And it was a very lengthy match, exactly.
And yeah, here he is later on in the show. Also, we'll get into that. As you said, though, taking 3 back bumps and looking like he's been triple power bombed by the Shield. Doesn't really come
that's
off
it.
that well.
He's taken 3 back bumps and it looks like Batista
on his way to the ring, no less.
That's it.
He's never going to shake that from us, even though he doesn't tank that badly anymore. But I've still got that thought of Batista in my mind, of him coming back at the Rumble and just looking like he'd run a marathon when he only went down the ramp to the ring.
Yeah,
didn't come off that well for him. But RVD win the match anyway, and awkward match. Del Rio's fine in terms of the quality of his matches, but you can tell that this guy stinks of my contract's expiring. I'm not going to renew it, and I'm going soon. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. The world needs me. It's like what?
It just come off a bit crap. His without me, the world seems going to get fucked up, which just made no sense to me. But there we are. So Cena was interviewed by Renee Young backstage. He enlists the help of the Usos. I'm trying to make sense of this promo, right? He enlists the help of the Usos and then started to beat his chest for some reason. It was like his donkey statement that he said a couple of weeks. Maybe in his elder age, John Cena's starting to forget what his punchline is in such things, and it's just coming off really weird. Odd promo. What the stuff I could make out just seemed really cookie cutter, so I was not interested. The only thing I got was the Usos were going to have his back later on in the show, which made me sad because it looked like we weren't going to have an Usos match. But there we are. The Usos are. I enjoy my Usos matches. I know you do as well. So not having them this week.
Actually, that's one thing we completely didn't mention during the news. I don't know if you've seen the results for one of the live shows.
Yeah, they lost the belts and then won it back, didn't they? I didn't put it up in the news.
Did they win it back?
Yeah, they have won it back. Yeah.
I didn't see the win back.
Yeah, they won it back on the same show apparently.
Did they? Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not counting that as them losing the belts because one, it was on live show, and two, I think the whole thing around it was that someone came out, or it was Finlay came out and said, "Oh, I'm reversing the decision. The match is going to restart." So technically, the Wyatts never won the belts. So if they're going to lose to anyone, I'd much rather it be them, Harper and Rowan, to be honest. And
currently, yeah,
I think they could have good matches against the Wyatt family. So moving on from that really odd promo for some reason, which Cena seems to have a growing trend of these really odd promos.
I just couldn't understand the whole beating of the chest thing.
No.
But the thing is, I still haven't seen the film, but I've seen like the trailer of it and like recent adverts because it's now on DVD. But it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, and apparently they do a whole beat chest song and dance thing in that. So I can only imagine it's just like it was something like that.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen the movie, so it flew over my head. So.
Oh yeah, so that's it. I haven't seen it either. I'm sort of going on what I've seen on adverts.
Yeah. Maybe our subscribers can tell us. If you've seen that movie and that's something to do with this promo, please let us know. But regardless, they can't bank on everyone.
If it is, bad WWE, because that film's like an 18 about drugs and all that.
Oh yeah, exactly. There you are. So. Evolution were backstage, and I'm not going to say any more because it was a shit promo. It was just a filler promo. So
generic.
Moving on to the actual match, Rollins versus Batista. The reason why we put those little snippets in, by the way, is because we review every segment of Raw, no matter how small. So yeah, it's still a segment of Raw, and we don't spend that. We spend less than 2 seconds talking about it, but regardless, we still review it nonetheless.
That's it.
We leave no stone unturned. Rollins against Batista. Triple H comes out and announces himself as the announcer. And he announces Randy Orton as the official timekeeper. Now, we said this before. I actually like that they did this. It's good heel stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mind heel factions being dicks. The thing I didn't like about Evolution and The Shield were that they kept getting all these other guys involved in. I don't mind Evolution being the dicks and using their leverage against them, as long as it's just the 3 of them involved in it. And the more that you get these other people involved, I don't know, I didn't like it personally. Maybe that's just my own preference.
So they getting the other people involved, like what?
Well, like the other 11 people that they keep getting involved in the Shield, Rybacks or any other heel that they can get their hands on, sort of thing. So when it's just the 3 of them doing this sort of thing, that's fine, love it. But otherwise, that's just my opinion. Now, Rollins fires back by saying that Reigns and Ambrose were going to be guest commentators, and the idea of Ambrose being a commentator was just awesome to me.
And the fact that they were just picking on JBL.
Yeah. It seems to be the go-to thing.
It's just like, if you really don't like it, JBL, you know what? You can just go out the back.
Yeah.
Fine. I won't judge you or anything like that. I was just like, I love it.
Yeah, Ambrose was on decent form, as you would expect for him on commentator. This actual match was pretty decent, I have to say, of what was there between Rollins and Batista. It seemed that these two guys had a pretty good mesh of styles, and they worked off it pretty well.
Okay.
And for all the shit that we gave to Batista when he first came back about tanking and stuff, he's less prone to it now. So, which seems like a bit of a shame considering he's going to be going off and probably getting that ring rust back up when he's promoting his movie. But we'll give praise where it's due. He's not tanking nearly as bad as he was at the Royal Rumble. So
that's it. Oh, there's the one thing there was one section of that match. I was just sort of like, something's going to happen. Like, we're just waiting for something to happen. It was when Ambrose did that whole running across the announce tables and onto Orton again.
Yeah.
And it was just like, there's stalling.
Yeah.
Orton stalling. That's a chair right there, Orton. That's also a chair. There comes Ambrose.
Yeah. But
No, see, the thing is, I was expecting for this whole show, I was expecting someone to go through a table.
yeah, you're expecting them to go a bit mental.
Through the German announce table.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
Where would they
Mate,
come
how
from?
how would that fare? With a powerbomb, we don't know yet. We know what the Spanish announce table likes to troll us sometimes, but
Yeah, but it's a German one. It is made too efficiently, it shall never break.
yeah, exactly. Or it will do what its job entails and break every time. We don't know which way it will go.
In which case it is very efficient. It breaks on every put.
Exactly. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Jim Duggan.
And there's your foreign accents
That's
for the
it.
week.
That's your
There you go.
racist. That's your racist accent of the week.
Yeah, there you go. It would be LTW without it, really. So, so as you would expect, with every single Shield match, it breaks down into their trademark brawl, and the Shield stand tall at the end of this. They almost got a triple power bomb. Until they did, Evolution, the usual thing of grabbing their guy and bailing before any further beating can happen. Now, Shield have obviously stood till two weeks in a row now. I smell an absolute pasting for them next week, as it's the last Raw before the pay-per-view. They're probably going to get dicked around a bit by Evolution next week. So I've called it here. You don't go 3 weeks in a row against a heel faction leading up to a pay-per-view. They're going to get a bit of a beating. That's the way it's going to go.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to bringing this match up for multiple reasons.
No.
I know that.
No. No. I've come to the decision. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I can't wait to rage about it, but I'd much rather just write this match out from existence. Just...
Alicia Fox against Paige. So, apparently, Fox on the WWE Network didn't quit, even though she said she did.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, I guess she's done. Like, you couldn't even just like come back with like a gimmick or like a look change or even like simply enough, just change of image. Nope, nothing happened.
Yeah, that's it. She was just there, almost as if nothing happened the week before. Fans were very much into this match as Paige came out. Every move that she did was
no. They were exactly. They were really into it as Paige came out.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the match happened.
Yeah. So going through some of the finer points of this match, anyway. Fox kicked out of the Paige Turner,
which they didn't even mention.
Yeah,
there was a Paige Turner. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
There was no that was the finisher and all that lot. It's just like,
she just kicked out. Yeah, sort of thing. And then Fox gets the shock win. She beats Paige.
But how? What?
Yeah, I know.
Like this is it. Like that's bullshit.
And Paige is doing her best to sell as if she's been laid out throughout all of this after the match is finished as well. You don't even know how to explain.
Like you don't get Paige in England. Okay, fair enough. Like you don't win on the home turf, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's fine. But you had such an opportunity to like play it strong, like to make Paige look strong. If you want to get Alicia Fox to get the win, at least give them a good match.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like she kicked her in the head while she was strung up awkwardly in the ropes.
Yeah.
The fuck?
It wasn't even really a heel win, was it?
It wasn't even a finish.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even go as far as
like maybe if she'd like done the usual, like some of the other heel stuff of putting her feet up on the ropes or something, making the crowd really boo her. There was nothing really like that here, and you could tell the reason why they did this and they made Paige lose in her hometown was to try and get Fox over as the heel, as the heel that can beat her.
Okay. So what's she gonna do after that? She's gonna steal a poor boy's coke.
Yeah. Oh
dear.
dear.
To turn down the beer. Because for the first thing is like, what's that? That's alcohol. Nope.
One thing I will note here, along with this, just absolute, just a little bit of, if you're going to have Paige lose, you should have had it to, Fox needs a finisher move, which is going to lay people out, and people would have been really like, oh my god, she just hit Paige with this move, and then she pins her afterwards. But yeah, it was just a kick and it was over. So I'm glad to see, Matt. That I thought you were going to rage of the actual result of the match, but I'm glad to see that you're actually in agreement with here. I'm not really annoyed that Paige lost at home, to be honest.
No, I'm just pissed at the match.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a black finish. It kind of came out of nowhere. It was a little bit like, oh, really? Okay. But
I didn't even notice. Like, I was jotting notes and I looked back up and I was like, I hear the bell ring. Like, that's safe. It's only going to be a ding ding ding. The fuck?
What?
And it's just like, right, begin rage. I hated it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if you picked up on this as well. Probably in your rage you didn't as well. I have to add Alicia Fox's music into the list of absolutely horrendous entrance music that some of the WWE talent has.
See, I was quite happy to hear like Summer Rae actually has her music that she has in NXT,
and it's good music. I like her entrance music. Yeah,
but it's just like, and then like, then obviously Cesaro won, so he has to listen to that bullshit.
Yeah, that air raid siren, BS. Yeah, they've got like a growing list of really bad entrance music, and we can name Ryback, Swan, Cesaro. Now Alicia Fox that list. I'm sure there's a few others as well, but yeah, that's her entrance music's fucking atrocious. It really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like we said last week we didn't know if Alicia Fox is going to be this heel that goes against Paige. We know this absolutely undeniably now. Fox will probably be wrestling Paige at the pay-per-view for the belt.
Yeah.
Luke Harper.
And I hope Paige kills her.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't... even when Alicia Fox first started out in the company, I was like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
I still don't buy it.
I don't think Paige is going to blitz her, but I hope that they don't do this thing where they keep making Paige win out of nowhere, and it's like she gets beaten the entire the match, uses a quick move, gets the win. I don't like that. They need to book her a bit stronger than that. The way that they book her in NXT is as a warrior and as a fighter, and even if she goes down fighting. She hardly went down fighting in this match that she had. So. Moving on anyway, before before
another vein in my forehead burst.
Yes, I'd say before you gain another LTW aneurysm, which is plaguing your internet mind.
On to another match that caused me to have an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Oh.
First of all, we have a little promo to get in between them, so we've got a little bit of filler here before you explode with anger. Luke Harper got his own dark little promo, not for long anyway. Bray comes in, says a few words. It's not really much to talk about, and I wouldn't have done this promo personally with as good as Bray's was before. It just seemed a bit of filler. It was only less than 20 seconds, not really much to talk about.
It was a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, like the Evolution promo earlier on. Sometimes they do these filler little ones just to remind people that we actually have a match going on later on, and we have to keep reminding you time and time again. But
if King and Cole haven't told you about a dozen times already,
yeah, we're going to show you
and after ad breaks, and the video package of what happened at the start of Raw,
which they air like 5 times in the night, so. So moving on. I'm almost scared. Dolph Ziggler against Mark Henry, the final beat the clock match. They had to beat RVD's time to win a chance at the Intercontinental Championship. And I will open the floodgates.
This match was one of the reasons was I love and hate the beat the clock challenge matches.
Okay. Do
it's
tell.
Bullshit filler.
Yeah.
It can be.
Mm.
And I like the modified Fame-Master from Ziggler.
Yeah, good stuff.
I quite liked some parts of this match, but then it's just the fact that Ziggler didn't win. Like, this is coming down to me as a fan. Just like I really wanted Ziggler to win because RVD and Barrett could have a good match, but during the tournament it proved that Barrett and Ziggler could fucking go.
Yeah,
and I wanted to see that again. And it's just like. The crowd are so behind. The crowd are much more behind Ziggler than they are RVD. So why put RVD forward? Okay, he's on a sort of. I use the term loosely as like a Legends contract sort of thing.
Yeah.
But don't fuck over your current talent.
Yeah.
And it's it's just such a bullshit, and it's just sort of like. Let's slightly stall it a little bit. 9 seconds to go. Oh no, look at that. We didn't do it. I just thought, I actually hated that.
Yeah, I mean, what I said before, it probably confused a few people about WWE not booking to the fans that they have. This is the biggest indication of that this week. Ziggler was treated like a hometown hero. They should have expected that. This is the same crowd that gave him the biggest pop of his life when he won the World Heavyweight title against Del Rio.
I mean, the one thing I quite liked it was well, no, it's not. I can't say I liked it because I didn't like it, but I picked up on it. I saw a notice. I was like, hang on, Ziggler's getting the little cutaway promo in the corner. Ryback got that.
Yeah.
Rio got that.
And we all see what happened to them. Yeah, it's just a growing trend. You know what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, this. I agree with you there, Matt. It seemed like they made it so obviously Ziggler was a couple of seconds out at the end, just beating Mark Henry. He didn't get there in time, didn't get the pinfall in time to beat Henry. And they did draw a lot of this match out. There were a lot of big breaks. They were obviously waiting for the end of the match to come.
This is the sort of match where it's just like, you've gone through worse than this before.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and they're selling these small beatings that they. I mean, I can't even remember the last time Mark Henry double bumped for a drop kick. You know, it just seemed a bit odd. So with this, obviously, with Ziggler not winning, it kind of like the fans are a little bit disappointed. When RVD came out to celebrate that he'd won, he got no response. You know, because people are like, oh, you know, okay.
Don't care.
If it had been,
want you to win.
Yeah, if it had been. You know, maybe you switch this match with the Ryback match and Ryback, or Big E. You know, obviously.
I knew Big E was never going to.
Yeah, but I mean, if Big E was the one to fail winning, it wouldn't have been such a sort of thing. It would have been like, oh, okay, fair enough. You know, it's a different face that's going to win. That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Ziggler got treated like a hometown hero, it was a little bit like they pulled the air out of the balloon, shall we say?
Yeah,
the best way to put it. So yeah, RVD comes out anyway to celebrate. Unfortunately for him, and he got some serious bad news. He got laid out by Barrett.
He took a bull hammer to the back of the skull.
Yeah. And yeah, gets a huge pop as you would expect, you know, from banning Barrett. One thing I do love about Barrett is that obviously I thought for a minute he was going to go heel on his hometown crowd, but no, he didn't do that at all.
The thing I love the most about this is the fact that Barrett was able to get a cheer for Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah,
it was just sort of like, but it's all about beat the clock. And you know England like deals with their clock sort of thing. Yeah. It's like, hey, GMT! Woo! We're GMT plus 0!
Yay! Yeah, he cut probably which is like the biggest heel Englishman promo you could ever do. And if he did this in America, you get booed to shit. He does it over here, he gets treated as if he cured cancer.
Yeah, like a returning king or something.
Yeah. He said also there is no way that this Englishman will ever lose to a bloody Yank, which got the pop of the night. It really did.
Easily.
Now I know my love for my home country makes me very biased, but come on, he was brilliant here on that show. He said exactly what he needed to, and when he goes over to America, you might get booed for saying some of this stuff, and you know that's what he's there for. I love the fact that it reminded me a little bit, and we're going to talk about it later on with Owen Hart, but Bret Hart did the same thing. He would rag on America, but obviously be very proud of being Canadian. Whenever he goes to Canada, he didn't just be evil towards Canada for the sake of being heel. He would be there and he would act like a face, you know? He would be the face of the night, you know, because he'd be cheered by them. I like the way that they do this with Barrett, you know, because he's over here. Yeah, of course he's going to get cheered by his hometown people. He's not... And Barrett, you know, just takes that on the chin.
There's no way that they can expect him to be a dick like that. It's like, you're in your home, like, especially considering... like the WWE, like for a WWE guy, chances are in the year you will be wrestling in your home state 4 times a year, 3-4 times a year. You won't be heel or face every time. Chances are you are going to come back and you'll be in a different sort of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. We're not as if he's saying that he's not acting heel, but he's not being heel against. He is being acting heel, but he's not acting heel against the fans.
Of course, yeah, exactly. Of course, he's being heel. He came along and just cracked RPT around the back of the head.
Yeah, but Yeah, but I love the way that they booked the end of this. With Barrett, he was brilliant on the mic, and obviously we're going to get RVD against Barrett, and man, I would not be happy if RVD ends up getting the belt off of Barrett, but we'll see how it goes at the moment. At the end of the day, I mean, the way that the IC title has been treated the last couple of years, it wouldn't exactly be the end of someone's career if they lost that belt. It's not exactly a huge thing if they lose it.
Yeah.
Renee Young was in the ring. It's like the triple threat for you, Matt. You had the Alicia Fox Page match. You had the Ziggler against Mark Henry and all that. And now I
will never be a rosebud.
Don't be a lemon, Matt. Come on, don't be a lemon.
I will always be a lemon.
You're quite happy to be a lemon. You can be leader of the lemons. You can
the lemon leader.
Yeah, you could be the leader of the bitter little lemons. That's it. Yeah, so obviously she introduces Adam Rose.
Please introduce me, the guy who hasn't got over as well as we'd hoped.
Yeah, the guy who is not getting the fan response. But what happens when you want a guy to get a fan response? You stick him in front of the UK crowd, and you get the response exactly what you wanted. They treated him, for some reason, like he was a hometown hero, even though he's not.
Well, depends who you listen to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we don't even know where this guy hails from. It's a mystery. But yeah, his music got chanted to shit, and throughout the entirety of his promo, the crowd was still chanting it. After this promo, they were still chanting his entrance music and everything like that, which I guess is good for Adam Rose. I mean, he's had a few weeks of not having any sort of response, so this won't kickstart him, but I mean, it's something good at least for him. He doesn't have to keep coming out and having absolutely no one into his whole gimmick. Now, Seb Coulter. Oh yeah, before this, obviously, he wanted the bunny to show off his dance moves. I'll ask you a very serious question, Matt, as we only do on here. Did you like the bunny's dance moves?
I did not like the bunny's dance moves.
You didn't? Okay.
It had something to do with Adam Rose. I almost said Axl Rose. Adam Rose. As a result, no, I did not approve.
You do not approve of his dance moves? Wow, you are a very bitter little lemon, aren't you?
I am a very bitter little lemon. There's only one redeeming quality to Adam Rose, and that's just because I'm a man. Just like, there's one good plus side of this. Lots of jumping women.
Yeah, and skin tight Captain America uniforms. Why not?
Yeah.
So Seb Coulter comes out anyway, yeah, I mean, like you said, the fans are pretty hot into this segment, and it got. Apart from Barrett, probably
it's
one of
the British can chant.
Yeah, it got a good reception. So now Zeb Coulter came out and said that he's going to fight Adam Rose on his own, and then Swagger goes for a sneaky attack. Swagger goes to almost look like he's going to beat up all of the Rosebuds, which I'm sure you were enjoying there, Matt. Do you
know what? I completely nothing this segment.
You didn't even care. Rose rallies anyway, and he clears Swagger out of the ring. One thing I would like to see from Adam Rose is that when he actually he's all this party and fun and games and whatever, but when he gets into the ring,
didn't he? It was just like sometimes there's time to fight sort of thing.
Yeah, we've always said this about the characters. Like, you can have a really goofy character, but when it's time for them to get in the ring, if they need to fight, they can fight. And if they do that with Rose's character, which I'm not exactly sure they will do, but we're big fans of that. There's been a few wrestlers that have done that beforehand, where they have a very goofy, they're very, they like to talk a lot. I think Mick Foley's one of them. He has this all really odd personas, but when he gets in the ring, man, it's business time, and he'll fight. So, yeah, if they do that with Adam Rose, then that'll be a plus onto him, regardless, but we'll see how it goes at the pay-per-view. He may just hit a quick finisher and dance, and you'll hate him a little bit more.
I will.
Yeah.
It's just because what I've known him as. That's probably even the most disappointing part, is the fact that I liked the Leo Kruger character.
I haven't actually ever seen him as part of the Leo Kruger character. I'm going to have to go back and find some videos of him as Leo Kruger and see what you mean. In that, because I just don't have enough research to have an idea on
an opinion.
Yeah. The main event of the night, Cena versus Harper.
If you hadn't forgotten.
Yeah, they had reminded us billions of times during the show. These guys had a really good match before. This match was good as well. Not as good as the match they had before, but still all right. It was okay.
I'd go as far as to say it was a good match.
Yeah, it was good. It was enjoyable. between these two guys. It breaks down for a DQ at the end. Wyatt was all over the gaff using his finisher like an absolute boss, just Abigaling everyone.
Oh yeah, bang! Abigail for you, Abigail for you. Oh, have you met my sister? Yeah. She's called Abigail. Bang!
Yeah, and I love it when he does those quick ones, especially with guys when they're coming off the ropes and he just slams them like that. Yeah, I mean, with that move, you don't think he could hit out of nowhere, but man, he does in those situations, so that's pretty cool that you can do that. And the fans was completely into him doing this. He lays out Cena on the stage, and he finishes the show by singing "He's got the whole world in his hands," while Harper's counting down from 10, because they're having a last man standing match at the pay-per-view. So, fairly decent end to the show.
I don't think they could have ended it any better.
I think it was alright. Yeah, the fans are definitely into it, and like I said, the whole gimmick of them coming down and everyone using their phones to illuminate the arena is getting over big time. A lot of people do it. There's so many little intricacies about the Wyatt's gimmick that is really well over with the fans.
Yeah.
Stuff like where the
fans. I was watching that. It's like it's great with the lights and that, but it's the one thing. I love the O2 as a venue.
Yeah.
And it's like I've got. It almost saddens me to think it's like I've never actually been to a WWE event. I'm going to have to change that.
You have been to a WWE event, not a live one.
Not a live event.
Not a
televised event.
Yeah. No, you've been to a live event, so yeah. I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not right. you got merchandise from there. I thought you've been lying to me or something like that. Yeah. So I think we might have to make it. I tell you what, this time next year. If there's money floating around, I know they do some in Dublin. I may have to go up one here or something along those lines. So yeah, we'll have to go to one soon. Just so people know as well, before we end the Raw review as well, me and Matt are big fans of local independent wrestling. There's actually a show going on here recently, so I might be actually going to that soon and doing a small review on it. So hope you guys do enjoy a little bit of independent show review, and I'll give you some tips on that, a bit of Irish wrestling.
It's the one thing is like people seem to forget about. It's like even in the WWE, they started on the indies somewhere.
Yeah, every place started up small. Well, yeah, we're talking about a very long time ago now, but yeah. And to be honest, sometimes you'll get, if you have a chance to go and see a local wrestling show, I would very much implore you to do so. It's going to be fun. Now, you may hear horror stories. I've heard stories and I've seen pictures of people doing these wrestling shows and not even having a ring. So obviously, not exactly professional in that sense.
Wary of that.
But those moments are few and far between in comparison to some really good shows that you can go and see out there. So I would implore you to do so. Not these shows. We used to go to shows in England for very, very cheap. Wrestling shows. Dirt cheap, really. If you look at the actual wrestling that you get in the ring, it's a steal, really. So in terms of actually going back to Raw, all in all, I thought this Raw was a good improvement over last Raw, which I thought was very, very boring and very, very tame.
As opposed to last week, easily.
Yeah. It now maybe it was the UK crowd making things a lot better than it usually is, but
quite possibly.
We can only review it for what it is as a whole. We can't take stuff out of it and be like, put the crowd from last week this week and then do it. Well, we can't do that. We will review it as a whole, and
I wouldn't even go as far to say that. I think just last week was a poor Raw.
Overall.
think you had a UK crowd or not.
Yeah, top to bottom was a poor Raw. This one was better. It was all right, and it had some good stuff to watch here. Some stuff that bemused me and Matt also, as you could hear from the review. But the build up to Payback at least is ticking along. It's not red hot by any means, but it's getting there. It's okay. It's ticking along, I think, is probably the best way to put it, isn't it, really? I'm not that excited for the pay-per-view, but, there's a small amount of potential there, I guess. I'm trying to be upbeat about the whole thing, So, I hope you guys enjoyed the Raw review. If you've got any questions about that, anything that we talked about on the Raw review, leave us a comment or send us a message on the YouTube, and we'll be more than happy to answer that on the next episode of Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. So, the next part of the show is our Superstar Spotlight. We've been a little bit jumbled up recently the last couple of weeks because we've had impromptu topics and we've had predictions and all this other stuff. But it seemed very fitting to do the Superstar Spotlight this week, especially the fact that it was 15 years ago today, the day that we're recording this. You may get it a day later or a couple of days later, depends on where I get it uploaded. But the day that we're recording it is the 23rd of May, 2014. It's 15 years ago today that Owen Hart tragically passed away, and we're going to talk about his career. We're going to talk about the incident revolving around his death. We're going to talk about some of our more personal memories of the guy and his actual wrestling career. So, as always, I will go through basically his entire career. Matt will weigh in where he likes to.
That's it.
And we'll talk about the career as a whole. Owen Hart, as you know, obviously by his last name, he was part of the very, very famous Hart family, a very famous family of wrestling pedigree, you would say. You know, when you think about the Rhodes family and the McMahon family, the Hart family are synonymous with wrestling. You know, their entire family knowing along those lines. Owen was the youngest of 12, though. He was the youngest of 12 children.
Crazy to think that.
12 children, yeah, quite a bit. And all of them, you know, majority of them had went into wrestling and professional wrestling. Obviously, the more famous of those of his siblings was Bret Hart, who went on to very big things. Owen, however, did not start his career trying to make a career out of wrestling. He tried other avenues, but then, you know, with that wrestling pedigree behind you, I guess it was only so long until he realised that he was going to pursue the professional wrestling route, and he made his living in the squared circle from there on out. You know, as soon as he decided to get into it, he was there, and there was no swaying from that fact. He was trained in the infamous Hart Dungeon, which just has so many stories revolving around it. And I would press anyone who wants to hear more of them. Bret Hart has done a bunch of interviews on majority of wrestlers' podcasts, like Stone Cold's podcast. I know he did a double one on there. So if you want to hear any stories about the dungeon and stuff like that, you know, Bret actually talks in detail about that. So you may want to search that up for, you know, to hear the words from his own mouth. But if you were in the Hart Dungeon, you more than likely were going to be wrestling for Stampede Wrestling, the organization spearheaded by Stu Hart. He also wrestled for the likes of New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is obviously one of the most well-known and respected wrestling federations in all of Japan to this date.
Well, so I mean, it's one of those ones where, like, if you come from the dungeon, you don't stick there. Like, they'll always try and get you out to the rest of the world. There's so many different styles of wrestling. Yeah,
I mean, Bret said that he was pretty quickly shipped off to Costa Rica to wrestle there as well, to learn different styles of wrestling. One of the good things I think about Stu is that he was humbled in the fact that he knew that he couldn't teach you everything about wrestling. He could teach you the basics and a lot about wrestling in there, but he couldn't teach you everything that could be learned around the world. So he sent his boys out to learn the craft in other places.
Yeah.
And the likes of Bret and Owen and obviously other family members went off to Japan. Obviously, was a mainstay. But if you want to be a good wrestler, you go to Japan for at least a little while. And learn how the way to do things. When Owen was in Japan, he was the first American to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, which, yeah, if you think by WWE standards, their belts, fair enough, it's just a belt. In Japan, this is actually quite serious stuff. To be able to win these belts are very prestigious and very well thought. If you win these belts, you're thought of in very high regard in terms of your wrestling ability. So obviously he had turned a few heads, Owen, during his time.
It's really terrible to think of it this way, because it's just racial stereotyping. But sort of like with racial stereotyping of Japan, it's like, with most honourable title, and it is exactly like that.
Yeah, a little bit of positive racism put in there. We're actually praising them, the fact that they treat their championships with severe respect, and fair play to them for doing that, because if you win that belt now, it's a big deal. And you look at AJ Styles; he's won the IWGP heavyweight title, and he is, I think, he's the first American to do that, and that's a huge deal, you know. And him winning that belt is an absolutely massive deal.
Completely.
So, you know, good for him. And obviously, you know, it's not just they've put this belt on this random good wrestler. No, they've you know, if you've got that belt, that means that you're universally recognised as a very, very good wrestler. Not just in Japan, but even the die-hard wrestling fans in all around the world can notice that if you win that belt, that's something pretty impressive.
That's it. It's a staple.
Yeah. He first debuted in WWE under the gimmick of the Blue Blazer. He, at the time, was not referenced to any ties to Bret, who had already been, wrestling in the company at that point. Bret obviously got there first. He was the elder one, so makes sense. He was already an integral part of the company, Bret. But Owen actually wrestled at WrestleMania under that gimmick. He was beaten by Mr. Perfect at WrestleMania 5. So it's something that a little footnote of his career that not a lot of people know of, that he actually wrestled at WrestleMania, not as Owen Hart, but as the Blue Blazer. So a little interesting footnote there. He left WWE for a couple of years, but then returned to what would be the bulk of his mainstream wrestling career. He teamed up with Jim Neidhart, who had just come back from his own injury, and obviously Bret was going on to singles success at the time. So Owen and Neidhart formed the new foundation, which was obviously a play on the Hart Foundation, which Neidhart had formed with Bret during that time. So Owen could learn, to have tag team wrestling with Jim Neidhart. And obviously they had just as good chemistry as Bret and Neidhart had anyway. So obviously Jim the Anvil Neidhart is Natalia's father. So anyone who didn't know that, you do now. I think that's general.
If anyone who didn't know that, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, it wasn't long really until Owen broke out into singles action. He famously, what they said about him is that he stepped out of Bret's shadow. He feuded with Bret Hart himself, leading up to what was to be the opening match of WrestleMania 10, which is a pretty big deal. To a huge shock, a lot of people didn't put any stock in Owen at that point, but he beat Bret at this event, beat him clean, not heel, not didn't do it dirty.
Dirty win.
He beat him clean in a very, very good wrestling match, and it wasn't all bad for Bret. Bret went on to win the WWE title later on in that event, so it wasn't too bad for him. He could lose and still win the belt, so that was fine. But Owen cut up a very passionate promo after the match, saying that he was now better than Bret, and they went forward to rival, for a good couple of months. Leading up to SummerSlam. Obviously, Bret was the champion at that point, and Owen beat the champion before he became champion. So Owen would get a title shot, and this would take place in a cage match. And this would lead to another one of his most famous matches with Bret at this cage match. And this match would probably be, in my opinion, the closest to the WWE title Owen would ever get in his career.
Yeah.
He didn't win. Bret still won the match, but man, this brotherly rivalry did good money for WWE during that time. So, and a really good match. If you go back and watch this as well, I mean, Bret's done interviews saying that there was a superplex spot where Bret was he recants back after thinking about Owen's death, and he's saying there that he remembers trying to guide him safely onto the mat, and he's trying to do it as a big brother. So you look at that with a bit of emotion, looking back at that time, and they had great chemistry, obviously in the ring, Bret and Owen, as you would expect. Learning the craft in the same way that they did, and just by being brothers.
Exactly.
He went on after that to win the tag team belts with legendary figures like Yokozuna, man, Yoko.
Crazy.
Yeah, British Bulldog, and so he won the belts with good old Davey Boy Smith. He finally teamed up with his brother to form the Anti-American Foundation stable. This is the one that we referenced earlier. He was very anti-American but pro-Canadian, and he would go over one part of the border into America, get booed to shit. He would go into Canada and be treated as if he was the almighty ruler of all, and they were all praising him for saving their children from burning houses, sort of thing. He was cheered to shit. So, interesting part in WWE history, and obviously Owen Hart right in the thick of that. So, it was during this time, however, that Hart became the Intercontinental Champion.
Yep.
He went to wrestle a certain rising star by the name of Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was at Survivor Series. Good match between these two, back and forth, really good stuff. Austin was scheduled to win the belt with a Stone Cold Stunner at the end of the event to send the crowd unhappy. However, it did not go that way. Austin broke his... Well, I'm going to say it as I see it. Owen broke Austin's neck in a botched pile driver.
Yeah.
It was a horrendous injury. Austin was out. That injury cost Austin several years out of his career, had to force him to change and adapt his style in the ring. Austin, during this match, actually still finished the match, to his credit, in the worst looking cradle in wrestling history, but you can't really blame the guy. His neck was broken, and he still finished the match.
That.
Yeah. I have watched an interview with Austin. This is after Owen's death, so this isn't him, saying anything before he had died. This is afterwards. That he was still slightly disappointed that Owen did not call him after breaking his neck and offer any apology or anything along those lines, or ask how he was doing. There was no contact between the two, and Austin harbored a little bit of resentment regarding that. So I remember hearing in an interview that Austin said that he kept to himself. He did his things, Owen did his things, but they rarely crossed paths after Austin broke his neck. So very interesting part of his career there. One of the things that Brett was very accomplished at is that he never injured anyone throughout his entire wrestling career, which is just bonkers. Just precedence to how good he was. But Owen, unfortunately, during this match, just lost his, not so much lost his footing, lost his grip, and Austin paid the price. During this time also, I mean, I hate to reference Bret Hart so much, but obviously it is a lot to do with Owen, because a lot of stuff had to do with their family and politics and everything. None more so than Bret Hart famously switching from WWE to WCW and the Montreal Screwjob that followed that. Owen, for a very long time, was the only Hart family member still in WWE, and it's said to be the reason why he didn't go for two reasons. He was never offered a lucrative offer, one that bettered his WWE deal, and he was very skeptical of joining them regardless, fearing that he would be underused or underutilized or used as a jobber, basically used badly.
He was a Hart, but he wasn't Brett.
Yeah, he was fearing that he was going to be used as like a subpar character. And, when you actually look at Brett's career in WCW, he obviously called it early, because Brett was he suffered in that fashion. He was used as almost like a sub-character. He was not used well, using bad storylines. So, yeah, for a while he was the only Hart left in there, and he was repackaged as the Dark Hart. He went forward and won the European title, rivaled with DX.
The Blackheart.
Yeah, he used both names, regardless to how they did it. They basically, what I'm getting at. They wanted him to make it.
Or the Lone Heart.
Yeah, the Lone Heart. Yeah. So he ended up joining the Nation of Domination during that time as well. One of the sayings that they always used in promos and stuff was, he said, "Enough is enough, and it's time for change." He took control of the Nation of Domination, which I just think is quite hilarious, regardless. So now we come to the incident. I think that's probably the best way to put it. The unfortunate passing of Owen Hart. It was during the Over the Limit pay-per-view in 1999. Hart was scheduled to wrestle the Godfather, and he was doing this gimmick at the time where he was parodying a lot of different wrestlers, and obviously this was during the WCW battle, so he was parodying a lot of WCW guys. A lot of people get the misassumption that he was trying to parody Undertaker, but he wasn't. He was trying to parody Sting, funny enough, WCW Sting, and do the zip line down the rafters, which Sting was very well known for at that time. These are the facts. The safety harness that held Owen broke. Owen fell a very, very long height, and he landed chest first onto one of the padded turnbuckles, and then fell back into the ring. Some people say here that he was dead on impact. Some people say that he was actually aware at that time, and he passed away shortly, while a few people are around him in the ring, trying to figure out what's going on. I can't get enough. I don't really know what's going on, with that. I don't have enough research to tell you. But regardless, he fell and he died. The accident led to his very unfortunate, very untimely death. This came with some controversy, obviously. After 15, they postponed the event for 15 minutes, so they stopped the event for 15 minutes, and then the matches started again. But all the talent obviously very somber. They knew that Owen was dead. They when Owen was brought out, he was gone at that point. By the time he was brought out to the back, so Vince McMahon did the call to get the wrestlers back in the ring and start continuing on with the show, and they did. But they knew that their friend and that their colleague had died in the ring that they were wrestling in. It just didn't seem right, and a lot of the wrestlers were not 100%, as you would expect. An hour after the actual event happened, JR, as he was still on commentary at that time, announced that Owen Hart had died in an accident that happened that night. He announced that he died in a nearby hospital. That was not the case. He was already dead by the time he got out there. The crowd were not aware of this. They did not know of Owen's condition, and they did not hear JR's announcement. WWE did not alert them to this fact. Now, the controversy goes along this event, the fact that Vince McMahon continued the pay-per-view, even though a man had died on television, and for the fact as well that they didn't announce it to the crowd, so the crowd obviously still into the show, not knowing what had happened to Owen. Obviously, the incident itself, the breaking of the safety harness that he was on, and various lawsuits, as you expect, were flittering around and resolved, and payouts were made. And that's unfortunately where Owen's story comes to an end. It seems like there should be an extra bunch of notes that I should be reading out to you here, but unfortunately that is where he is. He was known as a hilarious prankster, known for ribbing a lot of people. Always good for a good practical joke. And a great wrestler in and out of the ring. He was pretty good promo guy, great wrestler. Yes, he did break Austin's neck, but that was the only issue that he really had in the ring at that time, and mistakes do happen. His death sent a massive shockwave all the way through the wrestling industry, and the one thing that I remember with Owen is just seeing the matches that he had with Brett, his brother. The match he had at WrestleMania 10, the match he had at SummerSlam in the cage. I thought they were two fantastic matches, and displayed the very best of what he could give, which was a very, very good wrestler. My final statement on this, before I let you say stuff at the end here, Matt, is that I think personally that the wrestling world is worse off without Owen Hart. I think anyone could agree with that.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
And the potential that he could have contributed to is very saddening, all in its own terms. If he was still around now, I can guarantee you, at very least, some of the comedy segments they would have now wouldn't be as garbage. With as funny as Owen was. What are your thoughts on Owen? What do you remember him for? And
I mostly remember Owen on the sort of like the Lone Heart front.
Yeah.
The Black Heart. Because it was like at that point that I was sort of myself getting more into the wrestling side of things. But yeah, unfortunately, he sort of meet the end of it, because it wouldn't be too much further, obviously, until his untimely death. Yeah.
I mean that part of his career wasn't around for that long until obviously the accident happened. If you guys are want to learn more about Owen Hart, and obviously some of you may be newer listeners or newer fans of professional wrestling as a whole, I would they're my two picks, the two Bret Hart matches that you had, WrestleMania 10 and SummerSlam, the year of that WrestleMania. There were really good matches that displayed, in my opinion, the best that he had to do. So a little bit of homework for LTW, guys. If you haven't watched the Owen Hart match, go watch one of those two matches. You will be thoroughly entertained. That's what I say. So, our Superstar Spotlight on Owen Hart. I think we covered his career in quite a good length. And it just seems, for myself anyway, it makes me feel a bit old that this all happened 15 years ago. That's pretty bonkers to me.
Definitely.
So, guys, I don't want to leave it too much of a somber note. If you want to leave us a comment about anything that we said here this week, or a question you would like answered by myself and Matt Marsander, then leave a comment or send us a message here on YouTube. If you feel like supporting us, why don't you share the video, show it to one of your friends, and like it if you want to. You don't have to, but every little helps, I suppose. So that's fine. And apart from that, next week is the final show before Payback, so we'll give our predictions. Predictions for Rematchamania, as it seems to be. And,
yeah.
We can decide who's going to win, who isn't, and we'll see who gets it right. Going forward there.
They might actually have a bit more of a card.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully, because it seems a bit bare. It seems a bit bare at the moment, but I'm sure they'll obviously.
I think like just for certain is Shield.
Yeah, it's
Cena, Wyatt.
I think that's pretty much. Oh yeah, and obviously the IC match that they've got up now. The RVD Barrett match. So there's some stuff to see there. Might be some good wrestling. I'm not holding out for it. Payback last year was horrendous, and it could be this year as well. So we'll see how it goes from there. But we'll review Raw regardless. The last few go-home shows for the pay-per-views have been pretty poor, I will say. But we'll keep an eye on this one and keep our scrutiny on top notch for that event. But apart from that, guys, thank you guys for catching up this week. If you're new to the podcast as well, why not hit that subscribe button? You'll be able to catch every single episode we do on the weekends of our Let's Talk More Wrestling podcast, and you'll be able to catch the ones that we do every now and then randomly in the middle of the week, and also our pay-per-view reviews that we will also get to. And apart from that, guys, I think that's it. I think we're done.
I think it's
covered in very good detail. Thanks a lot for catching along the ride, guys, and we'll see you again next week.
That's it. Next week.
Bye bye.